Okay, we're here today with Donald Sterrett. How old are you, Don?
How old I am? I'm 83 years old.
I thought you were 84.
I'll be 84 in July 2nd.
You was born in 24. Okay. And you went in the Navy when you were?
17.
Okay. It says here at 17 you were 1 month from your birthday, which is 7/2/24, which was 6 months from the day Pearl Harbor was bombed and was called the Avenger Squadron. Is that true?
That's right. That's what I was. I swore in down to Ottumwa, Iowa.
Okay, and then where were you sent from there?
I was sent to the Great Lakes Naval Training Station
That in Chicago?
in Chicago.
And how long was you there?
I believe it was 8 to 12 weeks, I think it was. A short training session.
Okay, and then where did you go from there? Was there some kind of boot camp or something?
I got on a train and I went out to Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay, during boot camp you said something about a drum and bugle corps?
Yes, that's what I served in the Drum and Bugle Corps all the time I was in boot camp. And I had the choice of staying in the Drum and Bugle Corps, or they was going to send me to California for more training in the music.
And so you turned that down for deportation overseas?
Yes, I did. I didn't know where I was going for sure.
So you wanted to fight in the war?
Well, I was going to get aboard ship, and that's what I got.
Okay. So after boot camp and all that, where were you sent after that? Back to Norfolk? Or did you stay in Norfolk?
No, I went to Norfolk.
Okay, you was in Norfolk for boot camp, and then you assigned, what ship was you assigned to?
USS Charles Carol.
Okay, and what kind of ship was that?
It was kind of a luxury liner. It had a swimming pool in the middle of the ship, and it had cork decks, which we got a lot of pounding and repainting to do. While I was in the Navy Yards there, so we stayed in the Navy Yards, I imagine 2 months or a little better, being fitted with guns and different equipment that they had. But some of the equipment wasn't up to date, I don't think, because we came back and when we made our first invasion, they came over us and dropped tinfoil out of the planes, and it showed up on the radar as planes. And it dropped on the deck, and we seen what it was, but we got them on radar.
Okay, at that time you said something about being dry docked either at Fort Smith or Norfolk, but you said you were getting too old to remember all the details and you just gave us some of them. So after dry dock, you went out for dry runs, right?
Oh yeah, the ship had a shakedown, and we did some training with the crew and the landing craft, and they asked for volunteers, and I volunteered to go out. And we went and landed on different parts of Chesapeake Bay out there, and night landing and daytime landing both, and that give the coxswains a chance to get used to the landing craft.
Okay, so after the training you started loading the ship with troops and equipment for departure overseas, right?
Right. We didn't know where we was going on.
And when you got there, where did you end up?
Well, we got in with the convoy, and we went to North Africa and made an invasion.
And so what was that like when the invasion hit at North Africa? Basically, I asked what else did you do, and you think you were in Algiers, you said.
Yeah, well, I was in Algiers, and we landed our troops there, and we took supplies in, and they needed help to unload the ammunition off the boat, so I volunteered, and I took my mattress and stuff and went on the beach. I found myself a foxhole, but the second night I was there, it started raining. It filled my foxhole clear up and ruined my mattress and everything, so I just went out and started any place I could find the light, I did. But during the adventure of lighting, I came back down to the docks where we was unloading ammunition, and it got late, and they said we're cut off for the night, so I started walking up towards the hill, and I seen a bunch of canvas, so I just flopped down between the canvas, and during the morning hours, the corpsman from the Army came around, and one grabbed me and shook me, and I jumped up, and he said, well, this one ain't dead. I said, hell no, I ain't dead. So they said, well, where are you from? And I told him where he was from, and he said, well, I guess you just have to get back aboard the ship. And I said, well, I was told that after what happened out here last night that the ships moved over to Casablanca, because a couple of them blew up out there. They hollered gas attacks, and all of them was running around wanting their gas masks. And Army guys come up one mine. I said, nothing to do, and I said, that's what I brought it over here with me for. And so it wasn't. It was ammonia from the ships, I guess, was coming in. So I asked them where to get transportation over to Casablanca, where my ship was. It was going on the third day, and they said, well, you can take one of these small Higgin boats. I said, no, I ain't too crazy about that, but have you got anything faster? And they put an LST or something a little faster. And I and another guy was over there, but another friend of mine went with me. He got lost, and he was just way far enough from the ship that they sent back a telegram to folks that he was missing in action. Well, he wasn't. They just didn't know where he was at. So I can't even remember his name now. It's been so many years. Because we never kept any diaries. They told us we shouldn't be writing down anything or anything on a personal in case we got captured. And so I got back aboard ship and went back to the deck force. That's where I was on at the time. I was on the gunnery on the fantail. So we got out, went to Casablanca, and while there we stayed there for a while, and then we headed back for good old USA.
Now, you when you was on that fantail, when did you switch with the kid that you told me about that when the fantail got blew up?
That was where we was going over across to Panama. That happened. We were going through Panama Canal, and they pulled back the gates with the tubs, and one of the mines that was fastened to it broke loose. And as we crossed through, the end of our fantail, the propeller hit it, and it stopped the ship. And so they brought a bunch of high priority brass aboard ship to make sure that the ship was safe enough to pass through the canal the rest of the way, get over into dry docks. And they kept us out there for about, I think, 2 or 3 days before they ever decided to let us come through. Well, anyway, after we came through, well, it was in the dry dock, and we stayed in there until we got a new propeller and stuff put on. And then after dry dock, we went back out over to Scotland.
Now, you did mention about when that fantail got blew off. You switched with the kid, and you was 24 hours difference between you and the kid. That it would have been you back there on the fantail instead of him.
We switched coming over. One day we was out having a roll call, and he said, "I wish I could get out of that division, S division, whatever it was. And I said, well, I'll switch with you. So I went up and asked my chief, and he says, all right, me. He said, if you want to switch. And the guy said, okay, and we got a hold of both where we were supposed to be, and they switched me to my division, they switched him to his, back to where I was, and he took my job on top of the fantail there, where the gun was.
And then when the fantail got blew off, they lost him, right?
He got blew over to the side, and they didn't find him.
Okay, so you were headed to the Pacific Pier, and the fantail blew off, and you were there for a while, and then your position at that time was what? You was a cook?
No, I struck for cook then.
Okay. And then after everything got all said and done there, they went back to the Atlantic?
Yeah, because they reassigned us. We were supposed to go to the Pacific. So they reassigned us, and we went back over into the Atlantic and got back into the Atlantic fleet.
Did you ever have any problems with the U-boats and that trying to attack you?
Oh yes, we had U-boats follow us and stuff. But over the sides of our ship we had, we called running torpedoes. There's out on booms on the side of the ship, they let them down and they go through the water. There's a lot with cable on them. If there was anything down below, mines or anything like that, it cut them loose, you know.
Hmm.
And every once in a while we would cut one loose. One time we did cut one loose, a mine, and it came up the top of the water, and we had the rifleman out on the back deck shooting at it, and he finally hit it, and it exploded.
Did you ever lose, other than that one gentleman, while you were serving, did you lose any more?
Well,
Any more?
There's my knowledge of it. I think there's 2 or 3 altogether. They call it the Lucky Charles Carol. That's what they called it later on, I guess. What information I got from a friend of mine that sent me a monthly update on the crew and stuff. But there's very few crewmen left. I didn't know how many it was. There's not that many.
Okay, so you said something to me at one time that you were sent on a mock invasion to throw the Germans off for the real invasion force for D-Day?
That was before Normandy. That was after Italy invasion. We made Italy invasion before that. And then after that, we went on back over there to Scotland.
You were in Scotland.
And before the main Normandy invasion took place, they sent us down on the coastline with troops to land, and the troops went in, and the Germans, I guess, thought that the invasion was going to be there or something, and they went and shifted their troops, the way I understood it, to down to the other end, more or less, to protect what they had, I guess. But anyway, they held the beach there. They had a little trouble for a while, I guess. Well, one guy told me. I was up and down all the time, out of the galley and up on top of the deck. I was on damage control, so I had so many hours of damage control and so many hours down the galley making sandwiches. But anyway, they decided that they was going to hold the beach okay, so we pulled out and left them. And I guess they had quite a battle of it, but I guess they survived it. And I guess it saved a lot of lives by having that invasion, but it never came out that that invasion was made, as far as I know. But
I think the History Channel showed that they had a mock invasion for D-Day. I think it's been documented, but I don't know if your ship was mentioned. So your ship was a flagship?
Yep. Commodore Bailey was aboard. I can't think of the captain. I know his name as well as I know Malone at one time, but it's funny, it's left me.
And Commodore Bailey was what?
Well, he was in charge of that division. I
Yeah,
guess.
but what do they call him in the Navy?
That's what they called him,
No, but was he an admiral?
Commodore.
Is that different than an admiral?
I think it is.
Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, well, what was life like at Scotland? You said you went to Scotland
Oh,
there.
it was very good. We had good liberty, and we every other weekend I had to stay aboard ship, and I'd take my turn because we only had 2 head cooks aboard ship, and I was one of them, and the other guys were the other one, and they kept us there, and well, I did take off and went. When I was in Panama, I took off and went down and got on a bus and took a tour of where the gold statue and stuff was. But that's about the only sight I've seen while I was in Panama. Because you're only allowed to go over daytime to be back aboard ship.
Right, but back in Scotland, didn't you do some SP also? You told me at one time.
Oh, I did shore patrol. In Scotland, I did shore patrol in North Africa, and I did a little bit in Italy.
You have to keep the boys in line once in a while, did you?
Well, we usually took the Navy guys and took them down a couple, 2 or 3 blocks and said, "Get your ass back to ship or stay the heck out of the restricted district," because they had districts where what he's supposed to be in. So other places they go and have beer and stuff like that.
Okay. I remember the story you told me about some guys stealing your pies in the galley. What happened with that?
We had that off and on, and because I was responsible for the pies after they brought them to the kitchen, after the bakery brought them in. Well, I only made so many pies for what crew we had, and so these guys figured out some way to have to open that little teeny gate, we call it. It was made out of steel, little wire stuff through it, and they was through back to the end of the galley, and they got in there and did that. So I went down to the sick bay and asked the head doctor if he had anything I could put in them pies. It wouldn't do any much harm, but it would kind of more or less make them think that it wasn't going to do them any good.
Make them think twice about stealing your pies.
Well, it was quoting it all or something like that. They put in, just raise the crust up a little bit and squirt some of it in there. And go down to the head and just sit there and wait for a little bit. First thing you know, you had some good action coming on. Well, after that, they didn't bother pies too much.
So after the invasion, you went back to the States again, and then what? You said something about you asked for a transfer or something.
Well, I was going to go on leave, and I applied for transferring to the States. And while I was home on leave, I got a telegram that I was going to be in the States. I had some more leave coming, so I wired the commandant of the 5th Naval District if I get permission to stay another week. And they sent back a telegram and give it to me. They gave me another week. So while I was there, I got married because I was going to be in the States. So after that, I went out to back to New York. And after I got into New York, I don't know, Lido Beach or something like that the place was. Anyway, they called my name out, but I had a little foul up. While I was coming out to New York, I got on one of those fast, slow trains. And when I got in, it was pretty 2 o'clock in the morning when I got in, and I'd never been to New York before in my life. I didn't know where to go or who to get in touch with to find out, because no one was always around at that time. So I met a lady friend there at that time, and when she was on the train, and she said, well, you haven't got a place to sleep. He said, you can go up and stay at our apartment overnight, the rest of it. And I said, okay, I did.
Now, did you have Mom with you
No.
during that time? No. Okay.
And so next morning I got up and got a hold of someone. They told me where the station was, get to. So I hired a taxi and went part way, and the rest of the way I got on a bus. After that taxi driver said I could and go the rest of the way. And got down there, they brought me up for being over leave. So they took me up and ran me through the whole deal. They keep asking me about how come I had this star, or where, how come I had that star, and they kept asking Yeoman, is that true in his records? And he said, yes, yes. So that lasted about a half hour, a little better. He said, well, he said, looked like you've been through enough. He said, I'm just going to take your allotment or whatever they'll give you for extra for food and stuff while you're off the ship. I'm going to take that away from, have them take that away from when you get to the base where you're going. And I said, okay. And so that's what I did. And I was sitting there for a little bit, and I called my name, and he said, you're being transferred out to Hart's Island. And I said, where's Hart's Island? He said, well, it's a prison. Well, I said, they ain't going to surely send me to prison for just being over leave. He said, no, you're going out there for duty. I said, okay. But in the meantime, my luggage and stuff hadn't caught up with me. Left there yet. Hadn't came from the ship. And so I went out to base there, and I borrowed some uniforms to work in for a while. I think it was about a week before I got it, the luggage and stuff. Because I was up there supervising one of the Washington prisoners. It was an American prisoner where we had Marines, the Coast Guard, and Navy. It used to be a women's prison. Hart's Island was.
You told me one time aboard the ship that the Marines were bragging about all the invasions they'd been on, so you put on your dress blues or whatever it was, and came up with all your medals from all your invasions. And
I never did brag about what I've been at or what I've done or anything at all. But every time we had a muster, in other words, the only place I knew they was at was the canal. They did have it rough. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't. And I never defended any, but they just thought that, boy, that was the greatest one in their whole world. And I said, well, I've been on a few too, and there wasn't nothing too great about them. There's been a lot of Americans killed on some I was on. And he said, oh, he was, and I didn't say anymore, but next time around they had the uniform dress. So I got my stuff at that time, and so that's where I had my good uniforms and stuff when it was lost. And so I just put my dress uniform along with all my stripes and my bars. I don't think I got it. I don't think I ever got my good mental conduct. I never had no trouble or nothing, so it was never an issue to me, so maybe I'm still entitled to some different ones. I don't know. I never did check into it.
okay, so when you was at the prison, when did Mom come out to New York?
She came out about 2 weeks after I got there. I found an apartment for us to live in.
And so how long were you guys there all together?
We stayed there for a year.
So, and that's when you had Donna, your first child?
Yeah, she was born in Bronx, New York Hospital.
And then while you was at prison, you mentioned to me that about the time the war ended, Japan got bombed with a nuclear bomb, and then what was going on at that time then, and then how long was it after that before you got released from the Navy?
Oh, I think I was released about 6 weeks after arms were signed. It was about 6 weeks.
And then what happened after that? So when were you discharged then?
They discharged me just about 6 weeks after it was over.
And that was in 45?
Yeah. November, and October or November it was.
So what was life like back home when you first came back?
Well, looked kind of stale. It used to be in the bigger cities all the time. You didn't have no trolleys or anything like that running up and down the street. And there wasn't too much excitement going on. You still had the same little things, and there wasn't too many servicemen back yet. And everybody in there I went out in the country and shucked some corn, try to get my stuff toughened in for labor again. And I had a younger brother, and they thought I was him. He shook all the hands and he drank all the beer, and I never got either one.
So, what'd you do for a car and money? I mean, you did the corn for the money, and that was your job. Did you get a vehicle going at that point?
Not quite a while, because it wasn't. I finally, an older lady had a 29 or 30 Chevy. Been stored ever since the war started. I got it, and it was using a little oil and stuff. Been a long while since I worked on any dang cars. I worked on some before I went into service, and for a garage dealer there in Watcher, Iowa.
Okay. Well, I heard the Navy gave you medals in your high school diploma also. Is that true?
They give everybody that's in the service their diploma, and I got a citation from the French government.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know about that. Do you feel, my last question is, do you feel people are doing enough to preserve our past for the future generations?
Well, I thought we was until this last conflict that came on. I had one brother who was in the Air Force, and he retired from the Air Force. And I had another brother who was in the Korean conflict. And I had another brother that was in the Air Force too. One of the younger brothers. And I got married and I had a son. I had another son. He tried to get into the Coast Guard and stuff. He got as far as Chicago, Illinois, but he was rejected because of his hearing of his ears. And so he couldn't get in the service at all.
And Dennis, he served in Vietnam.
Well, and my oldest son, he served in Vietnam. He got shrapnel stuff in him, but he still made it back, but he jumped out of the helicopter so much that he was in very good shape.
Yeah, he received the Purple Heart also, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think he has got the Purple Heart.
Well, that pretty much concludes our interview with Donald G. Sterrett. Today is May, what is today? May 16th, 2008.
Yeah.
And I think Donald wants to say a few more words before we shut the tape off.
No, I just hope that the conflict we're having now will settle accounts that should have been settled years ago, but who knows? Life history says that there'll be wars upon wars, and I've come to the point I believe it. And I thank you for your time.